I was constantly living in the sphere of being average of anything I do because that signals to me that I cannot survive in a competitive society. In today's video, we'll talk about the need of feeling special and why do we fear being ordinary. Hi, for those who are new to my channel, my name is Crystal. I am a seven-figure entrepreneur. I have built and sold multiple businesses and also was a management consultant in my previous life. Now, my focus is to help people build heart-centered businesses so that they can turn their passion into profit. Now, I wanted to talk about the fear of being ordinary today because I always heard about the word basic. Like, oh, she's a basic, like she's too basic. I cannot wear that. First of all, I truly do believe that before the invention of social media, there weren't such an emphasis on being special. Look at social media, look at TikTok and Instagram where everybody's fit, everybody's traveling around the world, and you only look at the highlight of a person's life, and that makes us feel like we needed to be part of that. And if we ever feel in any part not measuring up to that, we feel like there's something wrong with us. So that social comparison really kills the notion of being ordinary. It really gives ordinary a bad rap. The second reason I think that, why people are so afraid of being, not special is because many cultures, such as the Western culture, celebrates individualism, success, and exceptionalism. From movies, books, to media, they often glorify achieving extraordinary things, which can create a sense that living an ordinary life is not enough. Same with Asian culture, but just in a different way. So in Asian culture, people stand out because they make more money, they have bigger house, they have faster car. They might not celebrate the differences in the sense where I have a different personality from the rest of the people in the group, but they wanted to still signal that they're special by being materialistically superior than other people. In fact, Korea is one of the most vain countries in the world where they have one of the highest credit card debt in the entire world because people are so vain. Everybody wanted to look like a Korean pop star that they pump money into their plastic surgery. That's how much they wanted to be special. And I believe that people also wanted to be special because their fear of regret. There's a common worry that looking back in one's life, we should not have any regrets. So this fear can definitely drive people to seek distinction in their achievements, relationships, and also personal growth. They don't want to feel that they wasted their potential when they die. And I'm sure this wasn't such a big deal before whole industrialization, where it has such a purpose of turning people into machines and produce and be productive. And now it's almost like we live in a society where the moment that we're born, we were set out to achieve, we're set out to be a person of value, we're set out to find ourselves, right? We're set out to really produce, and not only for the society and also for ourselves. So from a young age, many of us were taught to aspire to be the best in school, best in sports, and best to be in other fields. And the pressure to not only succeed, but beat other people can instill a fear of just being average. In my last video, I talked about how, being born in China, I grew up in such a competitive society really took a toll on my mental health because for many years, after me finishing exams and never needed to do that again, I was constantly living in the sphere of being average of anything I do because that signals to me that I cannot survive in a competitive society. Because that was the case. when I was going through the education system there. But I do think that the biggest reason why people are afraid of being ordinary, therefore having a need of being special, is a lot more existential than all the reasons I mentioned. I believe that at a deeper level, some people fear being ordinary because it confronts them with existential questions about meaning and purpose. If one's life is just like everyone else, does this have less value or significance? Now, I struggle with that a lot, but I used to think that certain people's life had more value than other people's life. For example, I used to think that, for example, if you're a VIP, like you're the president of a certain country, then your life will be more valuable than mine, right? That really made me do something like in my past where I was working for somebody. I would take my boss' wish as the command and I will do everything to satisfy my boss' wish, and I wanted to make sure that my work was perfect. Like if I received any criticism, I would take them to my heart because that would signal failure to me. It's not until I started to go through a transformational phase where I encountered saying it says that everybody's value, every life has equal value. And I really, really struggle with that. It was challenging for me to digest it because if that's true, why do we work so hard to prove a point to the world that we are something? Why do we work so hard to fulfill our potential? If everybody has the same value, does that mean that I have the same value as a housewife next door who doesn't work and they probably don't do anything? They're going out having afternoon tea with their girlfriends, but we have the same value? Like that doesn't, I can't wrap my head around it because to a certain level, I feel like it's telling me that, all the work that I did before, there was not value for them. And I think it was a self-fulfilling prophecy because in order to prove that I have more value, I need to work harder. And because I work harder, I then feel like my value is derived on my work, and then I feel like I'm more valuable than people who perhaps don't do that. However, I kept an open mind when I was exploring this idea of everybody is born with the same amount of value and everybody has the same amount of value. So over the course of many years, the more I started thinking that way, the more I see the value in other people. The truth is, I think that all of us are trying our best to live a life that we know how. So it doesn't really matter what you do. There is a Chinese saying called three people walking together, there's always going to be one that is my teacher. You can learn any knowledge from anyone. It doesn't matter about their occupation. It doesn't matter about their seniority. They can be 3 years old and you can still learn things from them. I think that is the essence of us all having the same amount of value. And if you see an animal, right, you see a dog or cat, they don't try to prove their value to you. They're just happy being there. They're happy being in this world and they're happy enjoy life. And if you really struggle with the idea of the need of being special, there's some food of thoughts I give it to you. First, even if you wanted to achieve greatness, you need to know that there is really no greatness without being ordinary. Bruno Mars was just in Singapore a few weeks ago and I went to see his concert. I actually didn't know too much about Bruno Mars and he was so talented. He could dance, he could really sing, and his band, everybody was so talented. So I checked him out on Wikipedia. And to my surprise, Bruno Mars was not famous for 7 years. He struggled every day in Los Angeles, wasn't really seeing any breakout at all. His music was not accepted by a lot of record companies, and he was just singing in restaurants. And he almost gave up at the end of the 7 years until he really learned how to make his songs, and he was disciplined to do that. So a person like Bruno Mars, who's so talented, even from such a young age, that born into a music family, needed to learn how to make his songs for 7 years before they had a major break in their career. If you were to meet Bruno Mars, when he was still making it, you would be like, well, this person is just ordinary. With that mindset, you would never foresee that Bruno Mars, being Bruno Mars of today, that he will go on making hundreds of millions of dollars, selling hundreds of millions of albums in his lifetime because of his raw talent. So there is really no greatness without being ordinary. Any great person would have the period of time when they are ordinary in other people's eyes. It doesn't really matter what other people think, whether you are special or not. It only matters if you are being the best version of yourself, because that lays the foundation of maybe one day you become the most expensive version of yourself, and therefore you are great the way that you are because you have achieved your potentials. I think a lot of people who have the need of being special are just people with such high standard, right? They really beat themselves up when things are not going the way that they want it to go, right? They have this version of who they needed to be, and if they are not living up to that version, then they're depressed, then they're anxious, then they work extra hard, or they just give up. I mean, that all comes down to the belief that if you are not special, then there is no place for you. But you needed to understand that that is not true. And I don't know who gave you that belief. End of the day, you needed to give yourself that compassion that perhaps nobody else ever give it to you, that you are enough the way that you are right now, even though you're imperfect, even though you are still a work in progress like everybody else, is enough. It's the way that the universe wanted you to be. And then from there, you can then improve and enhance your life. I mean, last but not least, I said that to I said that to many people, and I've heard about it from many people also, was to limit your social media exposure. Everybody knows that social media is poison to one's mental health. One thing I do start to do though is that every single time when I feel that certain posts drains my energy, makes me miserable, makes me doubt myself, makes me feel not enough, I delete or I mute that post or that story. Same thing with LinkedIn, same thing with all social media, because end of the day, you need to understand that not only are the things they portray illusion, but the whole life is an illusion, okay? And maybe they are doing so well today and you don't know. Maybe tomorrow they get a divorce. Like, nothing really is true, right? Until you see the end of the story. All right, thank you guys for listening to my rants and my content for today. Please, if you like the content, like and subscribe to my channel. It will help me a lot. And I'll see you in the next week's episode.